question that lots of students come to me with is, who should I hire as my lawyer? What criteria might I use to think about, who would be a good lawyer? And often I think people hire the wrong counsel. They do it based on a recommendation from someone that has a relationship with that person. But if you were starting a company and you were hiring a lawyer, give these guys some advice on how you'd go about doing that.
Right. So the first thing, you have some built-in filters. So just what you would think of, look at where the person went to law school. That's one filter. Where they're practicing laws. Is it a good, reputable firm? That's another filter. Are they an equity partner at that firm? That's another filter. So you at least have some somewhat objective criteria and filters to hopefully get to a pool of what you would sort of think of, okay, these are the most proficient attorneys. And so, but that said, there's a big quality difference once you get there. So even amongst big firms and partners and senior partners and junior partners amongst law firms doing what I do, which is representing startup companies and doing lots of merger and acquisition work, there's just a big quality difference. And there's a big quality difference not necessarily because of the education and the background and experience, but there's a quality difference because of business judgment, because of ability to get the deal done, ability to get the deal done efficiently. And it's interesting. Sometimes I work with young entrepreneurs. They're not quite sure what role it is I'm going to play. Is just, okay, are you going to help me just draft these documents so I can get a financing? What exactly are you going to do? And what you want is to get someone in there who's more than just an attorney, but also an advisor, somebody who's been through the process who can give you some business advice as well. There's entrepreneurs who it's funny. And those of you who end up doing startups, you'll see you really are bootstrapping. I did one with the guys down in San Diego, Enterprise Partners. There's a guy named Bill Stensrud. He's made a gazillion dollars doing this. But one of the startups we did was back in the .com days, is sort of a DSL connection company for, we had a much better word for it. But, it was on the first day it went public, it broke all sorts of records. It was called Rhythms Net Connections and went up like 2,000% on the first day. It was crazy. And so it was just one of these classic startups, and then of course it went over the edge. But in the very early days when we started it, this guy, Bill Stensrud, is interesting. Everything was just bare bones, just card tables. They didn't even order lunch in. We'd have these day-long meetings, and people had to go out and get their own sandwiches, and didn't have, just wires coming out of the wall, and just super cost sensitive. Yet he'd have me come to every meeting. And at some point I want to say, you realize what you're paying me? You could just have me come a little bit less and buy everybody lunch, But for him, having an attorney present, especially a startup attorney who was experienced, was well worth the money. And so there's good places to spend money and bad places to spend money. So if you're going to decide to spend the money and try to set it up right and try to do it correctly, you've got to try to find an attorney who's sort of a deal facilitator. Someone who's not only kind of met the other filters and proficient, but someone who's going to be true value add and be able to help you with your company.